I'm in the middle of loading my car. This is the 2023 Ioniq 6 with the third-party wheels and tires. I got the lightest wheels and tires I could get, 18-inch on the car. And this is the first really long trip. I'm going to compare it to a trip that we took last year on the same path, but with 20-inch wheels to see how much extra range or efficiency we get. So I'll be taking some pictures and a little bit of video clips and just show you how it goes. The first leg of our trip is kind of cross-country in Florida from northern Orlando up to just north of the Florida-Georgia border. The first 70 or so miles are back roads, country roads, state highways, sometimes doing 60, 65, 70 miles per hour, but sometimes traffic going 30 miles per hour. This happened to work out to an average of 45.5 miles per hour, approximately. And at this rate of fuel efficiency, 4.4 miles per kilowatt hour, we could drive 325 miles. That's a long, long drive. So absolutely fantastic. But right after this picture was taken safely at a stoplight, we hopped on the interstate and headed north towards Georgia. We arrived in Valdosta, Georgia with 34% state of battery left, 200 miles, average 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So 4.4 was the average on the side roads. And so this is probably closer to 3.6 for this leg, an average of 3.9, which is absolutely fantastic. In the past, we've arrived at this location with 24 or 25% state of charge, and the vast majority of that difference is the lighter wheels and tires, the rim and tires, about 20 pounds less each. The improvement in range is give or take 10 to 11, maybe 12% more. The added range at high speeds is not as significant as slow speed driving. So because once the tires get up to speed, it just takes a little bit of energy to keep them going. Clearly, the lighter rim, wheel, tire combinations are much more impactful at low speeds, where I guess that the added range is closer to 20 to 25%, but at higher speeds, 10 to 15 might be optimistic, but I'll take what I can get. And the funny thing is that we could have gone 30 miles to another stop. We could have gone 60 miles to a stop beyond that. But after 3.5 hours, this seemed like a really good time to stop and take a little break and get a snack. And as you can see here, we are at the Ioniq station. And the beautiful thing about stopping in this location is there are 3 different providers, not even counting Tesla. So 4 different providers. I could go to Electrify America. I can go to this, now my favorite, Ioniq station. I can go to a Circle K, or I could go to Tesla. And the reason I go to this is it has the nice canopy over it. Its price is fair. I don't remember what it is, but it's a reasonable price. The Circle K is 180 kilowatt, but if someone else charges it, it goes down to 90. And here I was able to get everything that the car would take. And you can see that we started at 34%. This is right after I got plugged in. And right off the bat, 144 kilowatt is the rate of flow, and that jumped up to 233. Actually, we were in the 240s for a while. This is 233 at 47% state of charge. Absolutely amazing charging capacities when you have the right vehicle and the right charging equipment all in the same place. We went up to 90%, which was totally unnecessary. If we had stopped at 80, we probably would have been out of here 8 minutes sooner. We didn't need the extra 10%, but we were eating. My wife had made some wonderful salads, so we just had a little picnic, and we were there. We were eating. We were having a good time, and we figured we'd just let the car keep going. I had the DC fast charging limited in the car to 90%, so it stopped at 90%. And we unplugged here, but total of 19 minutes. I think that's what it says here. 19 and a half minutes, but it could have been about 12 minutes if we'd stopped at just 80%. But like I said, we were eating. So once again, the charging time for the car was not what held us back. It was us. It was us being humans and needing to consume some food. And we had a lovely stop, and an extra 8 minutes didn't hurt us in any way whatsoever. Our second stop was south of Atlanta, Georgia. Just like driving a gasoline car, electric car is the same in my mind. I don't want to stop in the middle of a great big city to get gas or electricity. So we stopped south of Atlanta, Georgia, which is how I know that I didn't need to charge as much as I did last time, because we arrived here with 26%. 10% less would have been 16. So like I said, we could have saved time in that last stop. This was 2.5 hours of driving, 177 miles. It worked out to an average of about 70 miles per hour. So I finally got a nice leg at 70 miles per hour. The average is 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. And you can see the temperature now is 96 degrees. I mean, it started the day warm, but it just got hotter and hotter. So we used plenty of air, averaging, 74 degrees probably for the air conditioning. But, had a quick trip here and got to this nice Pilot Flying J. Also some of my favorite stations because they just work. Here is an image of the total time we spent here, 10.5 minutes. Got up to 68%. And, that would be enough for us to take our next leg in the adventure. This is our third stop for the day, driving from Orlando to Chattanooga. This, again, was one of those times where it was a human thing. I needed to use the restroom. After 2 hours and 40 minutes of driving, needed to stop. You can see the average was as amazing, 4 miles per kilowatt hour. And that was part because of the traffic going north through Atlanta. A lot of stop and go traffic. So the miles per kilowatt hour went up, because the slower you go, the higher your performance is, to a point, I'm sure. But this helped us out. So the slow traffic helped us out. From the car's perspective, we arrived at 40%, but didn't actually need to stop here at all, because we had enough range to get to our destination and still have 20% left. And here's just a fun little screenshot of the charging station here, this Pilot Flying J location. The car next to me was only getting 64 kilowatt. I was getting 173. The thing that was weird is that these towers are rated for 350, and I know that they're shared, but apparently they're not shared in any kind of smart way, because even though the person next to me could only get 64 kilowatt, I was limited to 175 or below, in not the 200 plus that my car might have taken, at least when I initially plugged in. So it charged a little slower than I would have liked. The Alpitronics, I think, have 50 kilowatt hour breakpoints. So if the tower is 400 in total and someone is taking 100, you could get up to 300. If someone's taking 150, you could get up to 250. This tower seems to not be that smart. It just splits it in half. So if someone is pulling anything at all next to you, you're maxed at 175. Since we pulled in with 40% state of charge and went up to 163, I don't think it really slowed us down that much. And the total time here was 7 minutes. And as I said just a minute ago, we didn't even need to stop here. But if there wasn't a car here, maybe we could have charged in 6 minutes. Or if my bladder held out, completely skipped this stop, and the total charging time would have been 30 minutes. And if we weren't enjoying the wonderful salad that my wife made for the first stop, we could have saved even more time. Maybe the total driving time, the total charging time could have been 25 minutes, but instead it was 37. And in all three cases, the charging rate, the ability for the car to charge, was not what slowed us down. It was us being humans and needing to use the services. And this is just a quick shot of the last stretch where, we went slightly under 60 miles per hour and again got 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. So some of the totals on this leg of the drive were 538 miles, 37 minutes charging, which could have been dramatically lower, and an energy efficiency of 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour, helped by some state road driving instead of interstate and slow traffic in Atlanta. And again, here even at the final destination, the temperature is still 95 degrees. The whole trip was in the 90s, low 90s to mid 90s. So that just gives you a reference point of what a 9-hour drive would look like. So about 9 hours, total charging time 37 minutes. Absolutely fantastic. If you had a gasoline car, you would have had to stop once for maybe 10 minutes. I get it. But if you stopped a second time like I did to go to the bathroom, if you stopped to eat, we're now pretty close to parity on a car like this that's really energy efficient and at the same time really fast charging. We drove up to Chattanooga to have an event for the 100th anniversary of the Scopes trial, and that was absolutely great fun. And then we had a little free time to spend in Chattanooga before we drove somewhere else, and we went to Lookout Mountain and the national park, the Point Park, overlooking Chattanooga, and you get some beautiful views of what is below. Absolutely fantastic experience. And then we went over to a place called Rock City and got some beautiful views. This is Lover's Leap. Absolutely amazing views in that park. And just, had a little side trip before we went up to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We stayed several days in Murfreesboro. I worked for a couple of days. The reason we didn't go back to Orlando is because the following weekend we had another conference to go to in Nashville, actually west of Nashville, 30, 40 miles west of Nashville. So we decided just to hang out in Tennessee. Murfreesboro seemed to be a nice place to stop. This is a screenshot of, I think it's Midwestern Tennessee Energy, had some chargers on their property in Murfreesboro, 200 kilowatt maximum chargers. They worked fine, and I didn't track all the charging we made a couple of times here because we were just kind of hanging out. So it wasn't really important how long it took. It just, again, 10 minutes kind of to get to from the mid 40s to 80%. Absolutely amazing. A quick little break. On another day, we took a trip up to Mammoth Cave. Got a couple pictures for you there. Absolutely gorgeous if you get a chance. That's up in Kentucky, so it was a good bit of a drive north, but we had fun. We didn't take the highway through Nashville because the traffic was bad, so we took, I think it was US 231, flowed fantastically. On the way back down, we stopped at the Corvette Museum, also in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Dozens and dozens of car pictures. I just picked a couple here because that's not the point of this. And we did get back to Murfreesboro. Oh, by the way, at the Corvette Museum, there is an Electrify America station, which worked fine. This is just another quick charge at back at Murfreesboro. And again, 200 kilowatt charging, so it doesn't take very long to top up. And on our last day in Murfreesboro, we left and went to Jack Daniel's Distillery. So if you've never been there, that is an absolute fantastic. We got a tour that came with some samples, so we enjoyed that. Little visit to the Jack Daniel's Distillery. This is a view in Montgomery Bell State Park, west of Nashville, Tennessee. That's where we spent this weekend before we started our drive back. And yes, I skipped over the stuff in between because local driving doesn't interest me, and maybe it interests you. Let me know in the comments below. But I'm just trying to talk about what it's like to be on a road trip and the amount of time that you have to spend between charges. So after having our great weekend, we started our drive back to Orlando, and the first leg was almost 3 hours, 172 miles, average 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, and you can see the temperature was again in the 90s. And thankfully, we were able to charge up to 90%. In the park that we were at, I would have gone to 100, but because it was in the 90s, I didn't want it to sit for a day or two at 100%. So we started the day with 90% and got here still with 29% left after 3 hours of driving. Again, a Pilot Flying J, as you can see, plugged it in at 29% state of charge and went up to 67%. I think we actually went a little higher. Yes, to 85%. And we were there for 17 minutes. Again, this is one of those stops where we could have stopped charging sooner at 80% or 75%. But we were there and we wanted to get another long drive in. So we continued our journey. The next segment of the drive was 2 hours, 137 minutes. Now the charge was down to 38%. And ideally, I mean, if you're really, really worried about charging time, you want to get the battery as low as possible because you'll have much more really, really fast charging. But I'm trying to drive this like a normal human. And, you drive 2 hours and maybe you want to stop. Maybe you want to get a snack. Maybe you want to do something else. And people ask me on a regular basis, how do you calculate all of this? And for us, here real quick is the charger. This obviously is the Electrify America, which, by the way, was the first time I've had any difficulty charging at all for months and months and months. And I think on my fourth try, I ended up holding the handle up, supporting the cable, and it connected and then was able to charge. I haven't had to do that before on the Ioniq 6 on any station, including Electrify America. This was a problem that I thought went away, but there's just a teeny little bit of a connection issue with the Electrify America equipment communicating with your car. So you might have to hold the handle up, support the weight of the cable so that it doesn't pull the handle down out of your car and you can get a better connection. But people ask me, so what I'll do is we get in the car and, after we've charged and we've got 70 or 80%, you can kind of guesstimate how far the car can go. And thankfully, this car generally can go farther and longer than we do. And I'll look at the map using PlugShare. And I'll filter for chargers that are 200 kilowatt and above and look out, something like 150, 180, 200 miles away, take into account the road that I'm going to take, taking into account possible weather. If it's extremely cold or extremely hot, I might not want to go 200 miles, and maybe I can. And of course, you can always plan to go 200 miles and then have a station kind of in mind that you could stop at, 40 or 30 or 20 miles earlier. And of course, this is a little bit easier if you have someone going along with you, or, if my wife's driving, I can look at the phone and say, here's when we want to stop. Here's when we don't want to stop. It's really not that hard. It's really not that complicated. You don't need fancy software. And this is a relief of the burden from the auto manufacturers because they don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just use Google Maps and PlugShare. And you say, oh, look, I know this car can easily go 200 miles in 90 plus degree weather. Maybe it can go closer to 300 miles, but I don't want to be in the car that long. So it's not a car thing. It's a me thing. And we pick a place that's 200 miles away, know that's about 3 hours of driving, and we just go. So this trip back, we went down south through Alabama and outside of Huntsville, a path we had never taken before in an electric car. So it's not like we knew where the chargers were on my normal trip up 75 from Orlando north to Atlanta and then Chattanooga. We've driven that multiple times. This was a new path. So I just wanted to treat it like a normal car driver. I sit in the car, I look at PlugShare for a few minutes, I figure out where I want to go, I put the car in gear, and I start driving. When I get to the first stop, as I did with this, was a nice, lovely Electrify America. While it's charging, I look at my phone and figure out I'm going to stop next. So it doesn't add time because you're doing these things while it's charging. You're getting food or eating food while it's charging. You're going to the restroom while it's charging. Anyway, back on with the trip. Here we charged to 87%, and we were there. You can barely see it in the top left, 15 minutes. Our next stop was north of Jacksonville. No, Tallahassee. I always say everything's fucking Jacksonville in my head, but we stopped in Tallahassee at another Electrify America. Multiple stop choices, but I've still got a couple of months of free charging at Electrify America. So we pulled into another Electrify America, and we were there for 12 minutes and then drove into more of Florida towards Orlando. And this is the first time ever on a long drive we got the car materially under 20% state of charge. A few times we've been at 18 or 19, I think, but this time we got down to 9. Now, the nice thing about the reality that we have today is there are many, many, many more chargers. It used to be from Georgia down to Orlando on Interstate 75 without Tesla. There were 2 places, maybe 3, that I could charge. If one of them isn't working, you have a problem. Side note, while I mentioned it, over 6 years now, maybe 7 years, I've been driving EVs. I have never not been able to charge. I have had one time where I had to wait more than 30 minutes to get to a charger. And I had another time outside of Miami where there were 2 chargers and 6 cars in line. And I did not want to wait. So I drove to another charger that was 5 miles away, 6 miles away. Unfortunately, the traffic was a fucking nightmare, and it took me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to it. But then I charged right away. So those are the 2 times that I've had any difficulty. Earlier I mentioned I had to hold up the handle, not a big deal. I had one other time where it was pouring rain, and I had to call the 1-800 number for them to reset a tower. Don't even remember. I think that was a Circle K station. So you can still have a little hiccups, but the nice thing is that now between Georgia and Orlando on I-75, there's probably 8 to 10 places you could stop. And if you throw in the Tesla, it's probably 20 places you could stop. So you don't have to have as much range as you used to have in your car to go to the next charger in case something isn't working. Just a fun screenshot. In this location at this Pilot Flying J, just north of Orlando, northwest of Orlando, you can see my car on the right getting 174 kilowatt. And again, it's a 350 kilowatt tower. If someone's connected to the other side, it looks like you're maxed at 175. That's all you're going to get. Even if I'm at 20%, and I could get 240, 250. We didn't need to be there long, but it could have been less time. The car on connector A is a Chevy Bolt EV, eking out its 36 kilowatt rate of flow. So what am I charging here? 5 times? No, off the top of my head, about 5 times faster. It would have been 7 or 8 or 9 times faster if the charger was a little smarter and could give them up to 50 and then give me 300, or at least as much as my car would want. The tower has the capacity to do that. It just doesn't have the intelligence or the internal hardware to break up in finer detail other than you have access to all 350, or if there's another car, you get cut in half to 175. So we were there for 10 minutes. So in summary, for our second part of our trip back from Nashville to Orlando, about 750 miles, about 12 and a half hours of driving, and 54 minutes of charging without really trying to game it and without knowing the route, and only using Google Maps and PlugShare to figure out when and where to stop. Again, everything worked fine. To stop for 54 minutes in 12 and a half hours of driving is pretty minimal. In a gas car, maybe you would have stopped twice. If you got food, used the bathroom, maybe you would have been as little as 30, 35 minutes. Maybe you could have done it in 10, but I'm talking about reasonable adventures while driving long distances. So this again was only 10 or 15 minutes longer than a gas car. And if I had, brought sandwiches and, really gamed the system and got the car really low at state of charge and stopped at 60 or 70% and not gone up to the mid 80s a couple of times, the total charging time could have been 35 to 40 minutes, which is, again, only minutes away from parity in driving a gasoline car. And before anyone asks, I should have stated up front, the car is the Ioniq 6, model year 2023. It is the limited edition in the US. That's the top trim at the time, with rear wheel drive only. And I have aftermarket wheels and tires that I replaced to minimize the weight and to add a little bit more range and efficiency to the car. So also the efficiency on this second day was 3.73. The first trip was 3.8. This one's 3.73. And again, that's in the mid 90s with the temperature perhaps falling to the 80s at the end of the day on the second trip. And just if you have questions about how this works or how to do it, leave a comment below. I'd be happy to help you out.